Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to another Friday live TTC member AMA. Thank you all for joining us. We got our usual cast on, which is always good. Ryan, Trading Nichols, Nick, Weston, and Satoshi Brokamoto.
Hey.
We actually have some good news. We're gonna announce some listings today that we put up during the course of the week, as well as a little bit about Cent token, and what's going on and the progress with that, as everybody's gotten a buzz to it this past week. We're also going to do, I'm really stealing Ryan's job. Ryan, why don't you do this? This is your job.
While you're at it, Alex.
Yeah. Before I get into any of that, I just need to remind everyone that all content provided by Trade the Chain is for informational purposes only. None of this is investment advice at all. It should not be construed as such, and you should not be listening to us. Don't do it. So during today's AMA, just a quick rundown of what we'll go over. Josh has some research from the TIE. We have some member questions, of course, as they come in. We'll do a recap of some of the news coverage this week that Trade the Chain garnered. We have Weston's trading quorum, Nichols trading gems, and we of course have updates about the Cent token that we can share with you. So I guess since everyone's most interested in that, we can get to that first. We do have a venue that we picked out to launch the coin on, a DEX. We'll share more info about that next week. We just have to dot a few more I's and cross a few more T's, but I think we're about 90% of the way there. And we have a loyalty program. We have some partnerships with some big names in the industry that we're also going to roll out. And we all think you'll be really excited about them as well. Real value add for holding the Cent coin. I think that's all I can say now, right, Alex?
Yeah, but don't forget, I think Satoshi Brokamoto said he was going to dump a couple of airdrop nuggets to let our members know too what's happening or upcoming.
He will. Before he does that, though, really quickly, I just want to let everyone know that we listed 5 more coins this week on Trade the Chain. Swamp Stamp, the Thrill, I think that's how you say it, Sora, Origin Protocol, and Hive. So as we're going, as Nick said just now in the chat, please feel free to drop any questions that you have, whether they're for myself, the rest of the team on here. It doesn't matter what they're about. But before we get to those, Josh, please share those airdrops and also some research.
Well, I've heard rumors. I can't confirm anything. I've heard rumors that we've seen a lot of different DEXs, like Uniswap doing an airdrop for people that have used the DEXs. There are rumors flying around the cryptosphere that 2 other DEXs are going to be doing airdrops, and they are rumors. They are not confirmed. I'm not saying they're true or not true. The first is DYDX, and the second is Paraswap. And so DYDX is doing some really cool layer 2 trading on top of Bitcoin, I believe. They have like 2 different versions of DYDX. There's like margins, perps, and all sorts of different stuff. Quite cool. And Paraswap is a DEX aggregator. It's a competitor of like 1inch. And there is a rumor out there that they also are doing an airdrop. And so the way that you generally qualify for these airdrops, if they are happening, I don't know all the rules because I'm not 100% sure that they are happening. But if they are happening, you generally have to make a couple trades with your MetaMask wallet connected, and then you'd be eligible for any airdrop. And that's how people have made so much money on the Uniswap airdrop and some others.
Yeah, I remember the Uniswap airdrop coming out. That was quite lucrative, actually, to a bunch of people, as it was airdropped right before it took off.
Yeah, I think it's worth like $20,000 or $30,000 now if you got it.
Josh, I have a question that some of our users may be wondering, just because we talk about this in the community a lot, but I guess so DEX aggregators are starting to pick up as more DEX competition comes up. I want to be able to access all of them. Why not? MetaMask was one of the first to do it and doesn't really have a native token. And now there's a bunch of other competitors popping up with tokens. Is there any way you might be able to give like a quick synopsis of, why one might be used over the other for maybe some members in our audience who are thinking, why am I using MetaMask over some of these newer ones?
Well, a lot of times things are used because people are anticipating an airdrop and they want free money. But generally it comes down to cheapest price and user experience, right? Like personally, when I interact with ETH, I just trade it with Uniswap. I just naturally do it. Like I've used 1inch and I haven't had the greatest experiences with it. Like not necessarily always cheaper. What you can do is you can just go and you can compare slippage and prices to figure out where is the cheapest place to trade. I don't think one is like, I don't think we're at the point now where like one is like infinitely superior to anything else. I mean, I think the only superior thing to do is not to trade on ETH at this point because it's like prohibitively expensive.
Yeah.
But I personally will not make a trade on ETH unless it's at minimum 1 ETH now, and that's at bare minimum. I generally won't even make a trade on ETH unless it's 2 or 3 Ethereum at this point, because it just with I was looking, my average gas fee I've paid so far this year is like 140 Gwei, which is just insane. And
Wow.
so it just it just eats into the amount of money that you're making. There's actually a website called, I think it's fees.eth, and you can actually go and you can actually see how much
Painful.
what is it? It's fees.eth. I gotta is it?
We'll find it and post
Oh
it in
yeah,
the chat.
fees.wtf. And it shows you how much money you've wasted on ETH fees, and it's pretty unbearable. So I kind of just don't like using ETH anymore. Like if I can trade on Binance or some other exchange, I'll do it.
Interesting. I always love to like the with the DEX competition heating up. I always like to figure out what's going on in the ecosystem, because like I'm the type of person who will just if it works for me, I'm going to use it until it doesn't, and maybe it might be smart to test out some of the newer ones.
Well, there's a couple different things coming out. I mean, one we've already spoken about, which is bridging cross chain, and then two, which I'm actually going to mention on today's Trade the Chain episode later on, is the first launch pad built on the Cardano blockchain is launched, and that's going to be interesting and hopefully propagate a lot of other projects to select Cardano for a blockchain.
Wait, so people are building on Cardano?
Well, let's I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I just thought Patricio would be happy later when we talk about the first Cardano blockchain launchpad in the ecosystem. So squash people's dreams.
Josh, what research do you have for us today? I know you have
I would love to share it. Can somebody enable attendee screen sharing first?
Yes, hang on 1 second.
So this is some research that we put together for an institutional client each week. And so just sharing the research that we came up with this week, which are just kind of 3 notable news events and just kind of looking at how the market's responding to those events. So the first is that MakerDAO issued the world's first DeFi-based real estate loan, and Maker surged by about 22% on that news. And so, just something interesting to, I guess, watch out for. I mean, I think broadly speaking, what I'm looking out for is, in general, how much is news moving the market right now? And I think with the market correcting, I'm very interested in seeing what continues to happen. Broadly speaking, we found, for example, like this is kind of like a partnership in a way. Like it's not really, but like broadly speaking, we found that significant news doesn't have as much of an impact in a down market. I mean, that makes sense, right? If everything's going up, then things are just going to move up a lot more on significant news. And so I'm just trying to continue to watch how the market is responding to these types of events. One of the things that we've seen is when the market corrects, exchanges tend to slow down on listings and things like that. And so I'm kind of interested in seeing how the market is responding over the next few days. And, if this is just like a one-day correction, or if this is the market is correcting for a few weeks. Next is all this, Uniswap back-to-back news. UMA added Uniswap call options. eToro, added support for Uniswap, which, we don't support eToro listings because they don't really do anything. And as you can see, the price went down after the eToro listing, which is why we don't support them. And then, they deployed V3 contracts to the Ethereum testnet. It seems like the V3 was what actually had a bit of an impact on the market, also on Twitter volume as well. And the last thing, is super exciting, which is Michael Sonneschein from Grayscale, and there's a typo here, so I apologize. Gonna yell at one of my research analysts. No, I'm just kidding. But saying that Bitcoin ETF is about to appear in the U.S. market, and we saw this massive spike in even though we haven't seen price react so much, we've seen a massive spike in Twitter conversations. I mean, one of the things that we're kind of seeing broadly is that Bitcoin is not being super reactive to news at this point, right? I guess it's just so big, it's $1 trillion asset, and so for example, like that Venmo news, like Venmo adding crypto is like for trading, like the market didn't respond at all to that, which is crazy.
Nothing. It was crazy. It really was crazy. It surprised me. I would have thought
That's a huge announcement.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's just like Biden's news. That news, that's old news. That's stale news. So is Biden's corporate tax news. So it's like, it's very odd how the market's reacting to certain types of sentiment, because Venmo news came out a while ago, months. And so did Biden's tax plan, which 43.7% was in there. Now it goes on Bloomberg and it becomes a thing. So it really, and I think this is a good part about sentiment. It really depends on who's reporting and the audience, because we've seen repeats of news happen and with different reactions.
I'm surprised that Sonnenschein put that kind of time frame on the regulator, to be honest. Just my interactions with him, you never really want to do that. I'm surprised they let him go out and do that. Bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of is putting the pressure on, you mean, Ryan, right? Yeah.
I mean, I'm hearing from a lot of people that the level of confidence around a Bitcoin ETF is significantly more than it ever has before. And I know that's not breaking news to anybody, but I'm hearing that, pretty consistently. But we'll see. There's also, I'm hearing, I'm not confirming or saying anything. I'm not talking about it, but there's rumors of some upcoming SEC settlements and other things that are very bullish for crypto if they're true. If the SEC is settling with crypto, if we see in the U.S. government push for more crypto regulation and working with the industry, and all of that is generally bullish. I mean, Gary Gensler knows crypto, but he's a very tough regulator, and so I'm curious as to what will happen in that regard. But it seems like, broadly speaking, I mean, across institutions pouring in, retail being interested, X and Y and Z, I mean, these are all conducive to, positive market responses. I mean, I would say the only thing that's scaring me a little bit now, and I'm curious as to your thoughts, is like this Safe Moon thing and like all this nonsense going on in TikTok and like Dogecoin and, all these garbage coins. There was one called like Cum Swap yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that. We had members in the community talking about it, and I actually had to read it like 5 times to make sure that there wasn't a drunk member in the community.
I know it went up
posting dirty stuff.
Yeah,
600%.
we have rules, and I was like, "Is this even allowed?" But then I'm like, "Okay." And then you Google it, and it's a
You
thing.
can't
It's called that. What do you do?
So Alex, are you a fan of Cum Swap?
I am not. I do not own any. Will not own any. Just so you know.
Hey
I
guys,
did not trade
guys,
it.
Joshua,
guys.
I got a couple
Guys,
reactions to Joshua, if you got a sec.
Yeah.
Sorry. So Doge at the bottom of the dip was down 50%. Fast.
Yes.
Down a ton. So like when I don't buy something that just keeps going up because I wasn't already in it early, following those trading rules, it's huge. Because if I had decided, I want to experience it, but I had slept through that drop, I would have been wiped,
Ryan, I want you to direct the questions in the chat to Satoshi
Correct.
Brokamoto.
That was exactly what I was trying to do. Brokamoto, can you explain the GBTC discount and why it continues to increase? There's a lot of people, I think, they don't understand what that means, and they don't understand why asset managers, to begin with, were getting into GBTC. And it wasn't necessarily actually for exposure to Bitcoin per se. It was to play the arbitrage. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can give the very quick version of it. Basically, Grayscale, which is owned by DCG, launched. I'm actually releasing, by the way, a podcast episode with the head of research from Grayscale today. But unfortunately, Grayscale's compliance team did not let me ask any questions about the premium, so that's not in there. Grayscale basically released this product called GBTC, which back in 2014, 15, 16, whenever it was released, basically allowed family offices and high net worth individuals and some types of asset managers to get exposure to Bitcoin without actually buying Bitcoin. Like right now, it's so easy to buy Bitcoin, right? You go on the Cash App, you go on Robinhood, you go on Venmo, you use Voyager, you go to Coinbase. It's so easy to get exposure to Bitcoin. But a few years ago, it wasn't, especially not for, high net worth individuals or institutions that wanted to have their assets custodied on their behalf, right? They didn't want to store, they don't really care about not your keys, not your coins. If you're a large asset manager, you care about the safety of your client's assets. And so Grayscale basically released this product called GBTC, which charged you 2% a year to basically buy Bitcoin for you and hold it for you in this product called GBTC. So for every dollar you gave them, or every Bitcoin you gave them, you give them dollars or Bitcoins, they would issue you shares of GBTC, which are basically trading, based off of the underlying Bitcoin value that's being held. And so what happened is that those shares got listed on something called OTCXN, which is like an OTC exchange, and effectively they got bid up, right? So while the underlying value of the Bitcoin may be $1, they were trading at $1.70, $2, $2.10, and there's a few reasons for that. The first is, as mentioned before, it was very difficult for people to buy Bitcoin, and so if you could just go on Charles Schwab or Fidelity, type in Bitcoin, and you see this thing, Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, a lot of people just bought it because they were like, "That's how I'm going to buy Bitcoin. I don't know where to buy Bitcoin," right? You also had people that could hold it in their retirement accounts easily and all sorts of other things. And what happened was asset managers would actually wouldn't be able to sell the shares for a year after they receive them. And so because there's that lockup in shares for a year, right, this premium kept increasing because it wasn't super easy to arbitrage that premium, right? Hypothetically, if you could give Grayscale $1 and they give you a share worth $1.50, then every day you give them $1, you sell the share for $1.50. You give them $1 and you keep going and going and going. And so what happened over time is that all these giant hedge funds were like, I can make free money. Let me just give Grayscale 50,000 Bitcoin. And then in a few months, I'll be able to, in 6 months, 12 months, I'll be able to sell it for the value of 75,000 Bitcoin. Well, every single person and their grandmother had the same trading idea. And so everyone gave, Grayscale money, and their AUM went up to about $40 billion. And what happened is, at some point, the supply outpaces the demand. And there was just so much supply of new shares of GBTC that were hitting the market, and the demand just didn't match it. And so now GBTC is actually trading at a discount to the underlying value of Bitcoin. So if you're buying Bitcoin, if you're buying GBTC, you may be paying 85 cents in the dollar or 90 cents in the dollar. I don't know what the actual discount is to get exposure. And so why is that, right? You think, oh, hypothetically, if I can get Bitcoin at a discount, why wouldn't I do it? The problem is right now, shares of GBTC, you can actually exchange back for Bitcoin. So even though you may be buying those shares out of value at a discount to Bitcoin's valuation, you can actually sell those shares and get Bitcoin at this point. And Grayscale charges a 2% management fee to actually custody your assets. So you're losing 2% of the value of your assets every single year. And so look, there's a strong argument to be made that maybe you should be buying GBTC if it's at such a discount. And if Michael Sonenshine is saying, who's the CEO of Grayscale, that they're going to convert it into an ETF, the second that they can do that, you can actually redeem your shares for Bitcoin, and potentially that's a giant arbitrage trade that you can make on the other end, where you can make an extra 15% return on Bitcoin by buying the shares of GBTC and then basically redeeming them and selling the Bitcoin later. I hope that was helpful.
To quickly carry over on the GBTC thought too, because, and I guess this relates to what we were talking about with ETFs before, is Grayscale has a desire and has already put this out in the market that they want to transfer the trust of GBTC into an ETF. And they're already working with a company who owns, I believe, a BTC ticker to actually launch the ETF with the ticker. Now, what's interesting about Grayscale wanting to do this is now there's 3 other large legitimate institutions, all who filed for ETFs. I think it was Skybridge, Fidelity, and I think the last one was Goldman. Now the SEC is in a very precarious spot. You have four big legitimate institutions vying for an ETF. Now, if they all get denied, then the SEC they'll get attacked because they're anti-crypto, anti-innovation. If they only approve one, then they're king making and they're picking favorites. So we're going to be in a very interesting news cycle in regard to Grayscale and the ETFs for, I believe, probably the rest of 2021. So I think it's a really good narrative to continue to read into and watch out for.
One thing to also consider, there's a dark horse in this race. An ex-Guggenheim exec and, with a team of ex-World Bank execs, ex-UBS vets, ex-Goldman, they all got together, formed an asset management firm, and they filed for a Bitcoin ETF as well. And NYSE is about to file what's called a 19b4, which is in effect a request for a rule change to allow for a Bitcoin ETF to exist. No other asset manager has a 19b4 filed by the New York Stock Exchange. I work with them. They're called Valkyrie Investments. They're one of my clients. I'd keep an eye on their name because they have a significant likelihood, if anyone's going to get approved, someone who's being filed on behalf of by New York Stock Exchange, I think, has as good a chance as anyone.
Yeah, I mean, I'd also just add, I'd add that this isn't the first time an ETF has come to market, right? Or the idea of an ETF. I mean, Gemini filed for the first Bitcoin ETF all the way back in 2014, and they've actively been filing since then. Bitwise has been in the market for a very, very long time. And just because there are large players in the market trying to get an ETF doesn't mean that we're 100% going to get an ETF. But from everything we're hearing in the market, it sounds like, if there was ever a time to get it, it would be now.
Yeah, Canada has approved an Ethereum ETF.
Yeah, we'll get it in the US. I mean, this Coinbase IPO will accelerate that just because now the SEC and the regulators have transparency into the operation. So all right, cool. Let's move on to trading gains. Weston.
Before we do that, Alex, I just wanted to highlight something really quickly. Nick, our community manager and research analyst, this week alone, in terms of media coverage that we've achieved for Trade the Chain, he's been quoted or featured in CoinDesk, Yahoo Finance, Forbes, Tech Radar. He's doing a great job for us, and a lot of the insights he provides, we as a community really value them, I think. But the media is starting to pick up on them as well. So definitely keep an eye on what he has to share.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ryan. And we'll make sure to share all those articles in the community as well. I almost hate sharing them myself sometimes because it's almost like patting myself on the back. But I do want to make sure that everyone's as up to date with the research that we've been pumping out, because we've been hitting some bullseyes lately, and it feels really good to not only be right, but also to help a few thousand people in the process as well. So
absolutely. And in terms of those trading wins, Alex, Weston, with his trading corner, he was able to make multiple trades on a single coin and achieve massive results this week. So I'll let him explain that. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ryan. Can you guys all see? I actually pulled up the live Coinbase Pro just to kind of give you a visual on this. Can you see this clearly?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we see it.
So kind of incredible, actually, what happened this week. I mean, I hope anybody else was able to take part in this. But yeah, two SIG devs on the ticker Forth, which is the governance token of Ampleforth. So ticker FORTH, which is what you can see on the screen there. So what I actually bought, I sold right here. Top of this wick, about $90.
Look at that candle. Look at that. That's incredible.
Yeah, it is.
What price did you get in on Weston? Like, where did you get in? What was your entry point and what was your exit point?
I entered at like 33, I want to say, and exited at 89. So nice. And that was in about 30 seconds. So very unusual, but also very fun to experience. And the reason I was able to do that is because I was in this terminal. I was literally sitting in here in the Coinbase Pro terminal, and I saw trading begin. Like it just started happening. And so I put in a buy order, it got filled, and then I watched it right up and I sold it at $90, and then it came.
So to be clear, you were looking at it before the SIG even happened.
No, I saw the SIG dev,
terminal. No,
but you know how they say a SIG dev and it's like it will open for trading at whatever time. So I actually just went. I went here and watched, and it's almost like there were bots that somehow were accessing it, right here. And I got in, I saw the trading start, and I bought. And so, yeah, it's kind of just an incredible
That's an
thing.
incredible trade.
And I think
Yeah.
the lesson here for a lot of people listening is those sig devs, although very lucrative, require some quick attention sometimes as well, especially for the larger exchange listings. So, which is why we recommend that everyone turn those alerts on in that sig dev page so that you get the buzzes and don't have to go in and manually search the channel to see the updates. It's actually one of the best buzzes I get on my phone each day. I wake up in the middle of the night sometimes and check sig devs.
Also,
Yeah,
Absolutely. And having
folks,
them turned on Discord as well is
Yes.
also very helpful because they go right to your phone.
remember,
So-
folks, that SigDev trading is also short-term trading. So it's basically a short-term event-driven trading. When you get a SigDev alert, you need to act on it, either act on it or don't act on it quickly and make that decision. Now, what's typical of a SigDev alert, and we have this pinned inside the community as well, this is research put out by Brokamoto and his team, is that you will see a SigDev alert. If it goes positive, it will go positive and it'll go positive really quickly. And then once that SigDev alert starts to tick down is usually when you have the sellers coming in and dumping it. So don't look to be in a SigDev for days. You're looking to be in SigDev for minutes, maybe an hour or more, but that is it. Typically, it's just minutes. And as you can see from the candle, that
This one was 30 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, this was a very quick SigDev alert, in and out.
Yeah. And
And Weston,
Right there.
what was your you said you made 2 trades on it. What was the second trade that you made?
oh
Can
yes,
you
so
tell us
and
like
this
the
was
entry
so-
point, the exit
so-
point, and how long it
Can I just have a brief moment before you do that, Weston? So I just want to answer a couple questions to community. And one is, how do you set up the SigDev alerts on your phone? I'll get to all these real quick. SigDev alerts on your phone are really important, like Nick had mentioned. So what you want to do is it's easiest to go into your desktop. You go into right click on the channel for significant development, and you can set your alerts there that you want. Now, typically what people do is,
I was gonna say within Discord, Alex. Mention that it's within Discord, right?
yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, so typically what people do is they'll go in and they will set the notifications on the individual channels to mute with @mentions. That's typically the way they do it, so they don't get a lot of noise. And then you set the alert on the significant development channel to full, so that way you get the vibration. That channel is a read-only channel. You cannot post in it, so you're not going to get a lot of noise. So when your phone vibrates or pings from it, it is going to be a SigDev alert only.
I'd like to add that we put out the best SigDev alert ever the other day, which was yesterday Coinbase listing USDT, because if you had converted all your Bitcoin into USDT, you would have done exceptionally well versus the rest of the market.
Dennis,
That is,
Dennis, I'd like to ask Dennis in our audience, so please elaborate on alert settings a bit more if time allows. Did I cover what you just, what you were thinking?
And did anyone want me to cover
Good.
mobile? I pulled it up so I could describe that too.
Well, yeah, I like mobile, but I think, Nichols, the easiest way is always to go in through the desktop app and set those up. It's just more intuitive, especially for us middle-aged men like
Well,
me.
they changed it on mobile. It's easier now. It used to be deep into the weeds, and now you just press and hold on the channel, and you can change how much you get the messages. So at least on Android, Discord got way easier.
yeah, they did do a great.
It's not as easy on iOS. So what I just put in the iOS, and it's a really good clarification, is the iOS mobile instructions are now in the chat at the 12:34 mark from me. And if you're on Android, then just hold down the channel. So thank you, Apple, for making life a little bit more difficult.
All right, Weston, go in with your second, fourth.
Okay, so yeah, so this one, this is playing with fire right here, guys. So be aware. But yeah, it was great. 137% in 30 seconds. I don't think I've beaten that. But What Coinbase Pro does, they'll list it here and then it'll get listed on Coinbase. And I believe that was right here. And so when it became, when Coinbase, you know, the like retail platform announced it, I entered again, and I actually made about 6 or 10 trades for about 50–60% gain in this period right here, and exited about right here. So it was almost, I actually was posting this in the trading, Weston's trading channel thing, because it was just fun. But, you know, I mean, look at this. It's like, anybody can do this. You can do this. Just follow the alerts, get in and pay attention to your trade and get out when it's time to go.
Yeah, and it's also important, guys, if you know, to hear how Weston does this. He's been on every single AMA from the start, where we've had him highlight either his sig dev or his sentiment trading for the past week. You can go into Weston's trading corner. Weston's really good at talking through these trades, his ideas to execution to exit points. So definitely check that out to learn some insights.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for that,
Thank you.
Weston. Great. Nichols, I know you have some commentary around that trade as well, and also some shorting that you did this week, which, you know, wish I did that too.
Yeah. So last night I didn't really make money off my shorting. It was more like a little bit of rescue against the portfolio, right? But it did help, you know. So portfolio as a whole, everything came down quite a bit, but at least I got a little bit of gain back. I don't even want to talk about it with how little it is against the portfolio loss. But it was at least a hedge that made me feel a little better, that I made a little bit, you know, picked up 5%, 3%, you know, some repeating good. Yeah, just knickknacks, because I still believe we're in a bull market and I don't want to short anything for long. I just want the shorting muscles strong so that if stuff does end, I already know how to watch for it and to go for it. At least that's my personal choice as a trader. I want my shorting skills up because at some point it might be the primary skill that can make money.
Nichols, can you kind of just quickly go through for everybody watching how you're shorting, what you're mechanically doing it?
Sure. Should I share something on a screen, or
Feel free.
ADA. How did you short ADA?
okay. Did anyone want to pull up the ADA chart on like a 1 hour?
Do you want a derivatives exchange? I can pull up Femex.
It doesn't really matter. It's
I
gonna be
have
about
it
the same
on.
chart.
You could share
I have it
trading,
on.
Nichols.
Okay.
Yeah. Do your thing. Run your AV.
All right. So share screen, and well, we don't really care about Doge, but we'll turn it into ADA.
Fun fact, while he's getting that set up, I actually had a chart that I shared to the community, I think a couple weeks ago, about ADA. Actually looks like it was probably about 6 or 7 days ago, with a price target of about 95 cents. And it looks like it hit to perfection yesterday. So that chart, very valid. Nice.
Dennis, real quick, yes, this will be this is recorded and will be posted actually by 5 o'clock this afternoon.
Oh,
Okay.
You got the
So-
TDs, you got sequentials on there. Oh, I love this. This is great.
Yeah, it is good stuff. And MACD volunteered to be on the top. I didn't really use that. I don't know how to put it back. But you know, with the oscillator and the MACD, I think is the easiest way to show kind of a pressure and direction on the market. So when you have your red zone fading into green, that's a lot of times a place you could long. Sometimes you can see on this that it could bounce off and fake out, but we did actually cross. And this is just a standard MACD. There's nothing special about it. But the beauty of it is that every once in a while you see this not actually cross and it bounces off, it's really strong because the market people are like going against what everyone else is anticipating too soon. So always be ready. Don't try to anticipate it too soon. Confirm the direction, right? So a lot of people last night, This is around 9 p.m. last night. A lot of people were like, oh man, let's buy this dip. Let's buy this dip. And I was like, oh, I don't know. Because XBT or Bitcoin has been more flat. This is kind of a longer term. Drop it down. Bitcoin's been kind of more flat and less excited. And that's my barometer. Sentiment is really critically important. I look at sentiment for sure, but I also look at Bitcoin as a monitor. If Bitcoin is soaring, I'm more scared to short. If sentiment is awesome, I'm more scared to short. I always check that sentiment. Is it at least neutral or less? And then if I like the technicals, then I consider going in. So a lot of people were talking last night, hey, buy this dip. And I was like, just my view on it, I don't feel like we're done. Doge had us in a mania. We had a few weeks with hardly corrections. So we were bound to get a bigger correction. And I normally, if you had a nice dip, if you're just DCAing, you could go ahead and buy so long as you still have money to buy if you get that even deeper dip. So when I actually started to come down, I was like, okay, in liquidity trading, there could be a lot of orders right here ready to buy and it could shoot back up. So I wait for it to really be sure it's coming down and then I short. So I don't short as nearly as much as what you think you could, because I want to be really sure of the direction. And then when I saw this CTD9s that I'm aware of, thanks to CJ, one of two things happen when you get a TD9. It's going to either reverse or it's going to go even stronger in that same direction. So I took some profits here. I'm sorry?
That's a hammer TD9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So I took some profits down in here and then up, it came up to this hammer and I was like worried about what I still left on the table short, but then boom, it came down a lot more and I made some more.
Brilliant.
So
would you be able to explain the importance of the MACD to the people and the crossovers?
So right at this time, if you look at this, we almost looked like up on the MACD prior to this move, we got a little bit of positive pressure. And in a sense, the longer you consolidate, the more likely it can show green, even if it hasn't really moved up. And that could easily be a fake out, or it could be a change in direction. You have to watch for it. When a move just starts to happen, it could be a fake out and people can bulldoze your trade. I want to see a couple of candles going in my direction on whatever time frame I'm trading to ensure that I really do have that direction. It's kind of like what CJ is always talking about, the Rothschild quote. He doesn't buy the bottom, he doesn't sell the top. He comes a little bit tighter in so that he's sure of what's happened.
Yeah, so
higher probability.
If you're using a MACD, if you do pay attention to a MACD indicator, you want to take, if you look at that top portion of Nichols' chart, you have the blue line, and underneath you have the red line in most of the areas. That blue line is going to be the top line that you want on top. When that line starts getting close for a connection and a crossover, that is when you're looking at a trend to the downside. So as long as that blue line has space between the red line, you're good. When you get close, be worried about a crossover. If you flip back to the BTC chart, you'll see that one of the problems we're having with BTC right now is we do have a very tight crossover look for the last week or so. And you can see that just on the upper right there. But look for those two lines coming to intersect. That's when things start to go down.
One more note, just to build off of what Patricio or Nichols had said, is the confirmation of candles. And this came up last night in the group, and I hope that I was able to help a few people with confirming candles, the theme of confirming candles. Now, a lot of people, when they see a big dip, okay, it hits the support zone, I'm going to go ahead and place my buy. This seems like a good idea. But what smart more scalpers or traders do, or even longtime buyers do, is they wait for a confirmation candle. Now, if you see a giant red wick down into support zone, you don't know if that's going to catch or not until you see the next candle form and start to give you information. So someone was like, do I buy now? And I said, no, you need to wait till 12 a.m. because we'll have two more candles letting us know exactly what's going to happen. And if you waited till 12 a.m., you probably would have saved yourself some money because we had another drop again.
Exactly.
So Yeah. And so what you want to do is always wait for that next candle. Now, if you're doing short-term trades like that, you're obviously going to get candles quicker because you're doing 5 or 15 minutes. But if you're looking for a really long-term, like solid buy, if you're not going to really trade or have an active, manage money for that amount of time, you definitely want to wait till the next candle comes in so that you get a better idea of what's happening and you don't ruin that trade.
And people ask me a lot, what time frame should my candles be? And it's really how much time do you have to be at the chart? If you can only pop in on your trades in the evening after work or in the morning before work or whatever, have a longer time frame that you're looking at so that you can leave it alone for longer.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, do not do it on a 5-minute.
Don't do 5 minutes and try to still satisfy a daytime boss. It's not going to work.
Scalping, I would recommend 1 to 15 minutes, and legitimate trading, I would recommend 4 hours or 1 day. The 1 hour candles people love to use, but they get smashed around a lot because retail prefers them. And most of the larger institutions and hedge funds will utilize that to their advantage. So be careful.
Yeah.
If you guys are looking, question from Jason, can you share some insight on TD indicator? You can watch our daily shows, Trade to Chain daily shows. When we do the big boards, we break through the TA on the on Bitcoin, and there's you can learn a lot from TD sequential indicators there. Well,
That's where I picked it up at. So absolutely.
Yeah, well, actually, also Ryan and I have spoken to CJ. We're going to be putting together a little beginner's tutorial video as well, and Rob just did one too. So we can, if somebody wants to share that in the Discord community, Rob's link that he did yesterday with CJ on tutorial for beginners, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Done with the chart.
Yes, sir.
All right, does anyone else have any further questions that's watching? Or is there anything else that anyone that's on the panel want to go over before we peace out, I guess?
Nick, why don't you go over what you put together in the market commentary this morning a little, kind of explain that, talk it out with people.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and do my best to kind of, there's a lot of charts here, but I'm just going to go ahead and slap on the Bitcoin chart real quick. Okay. We're on the 1 hour. Like I said, we shouldn't do, but I was just watching. So last night, we had this touch happen right here. That was when a lot of activity kind of hit in the group because we had earlier in the week predicted a 100 MA moving average touch. So we almost got the touch. A lot of people were interested in buying. We could see sentiment was going haywire. And I warned of something called a swing failure pattern. Now, a swing failure pattern is, I don't want to, actually, I think I can remove this and then I'll just bring it back. So a swing failure pattern is when the price drops under support briefly due to bots and intelligent market makers, otherwise known as whales, washing out or known as liquidating longs and derivative trades. Now, generally what happens at 100 moving average support, even 50 MA support, we can see the same thing, even more severe, is that a lot of people start to place longs there programmatically. It's just a really easy thing to do because most of the market's looking at it. Now, a swing failure pattern ruins and washes away everything to create maximum kind of pain in the market and make people think that bad things are going to happen. And that's when weak hands transition into strong hands. Now, what we're seeing if we go down to the 4 hour is we can actually see the candle. This is the candle that basically executed the entire swing failure pattern. This is the candle that basically brought us back because all of the intelligent buyers started actually placing buys there to soak up what the sellers were selling. So these two candles together, and like I was talking about the confirmation trade, this is very, very neutral. We didn't get a break above the red candle, so we have no bullish engulfing. And we don't have an ugly doji because we have a very fat candle here. So this to me says market indecision, neutral, look for more candles. What pops up next is a nice, beautiful hammer. Now it's a red hammer, so we need more confirmation, obviously, but this is positive because we can see the more wicks that we have facing down means that there's buy pressure at core support levels. So if we continue forward, I believe this 4-hour candle just popped up 50 minutes ago. So it's not full enough to actually say, it's a legitimate candle to even look at yet. So now we're looking at the 1 hour to be able to see what's happening on the short term. So right now, and what I can do is.
But Nick, you're saying 50K about we have support, right? I mean,
Yes.
in essence.
So, well, it's 49.5 is the true support, which is exactly kind of along this dotted line. So this right here is just the channel that we're currently trading in that I've drawn for you. And I will move this up so it's a little bit more clear. So this channel is pretty much exactly where we are chilling for the time being. We can see that this middle support line that is drawn is legitimate support. We can see multiple candle bodies and wicks coming down. So there is trading action happening. And now we're moving up in the upper bound area of the trend. What we have as resistance currently is 50.5K. And what we have as supports is 49 flat. So we're going to see this continue to basically ping pong around here until it either goes to the bottom of the trend or the top of the trend. Now we want to see a clean break, meaning the candle has to close above support for us to be able to say it's a clean break. And then it will become, or the candle has to close above resistance, and then it will become support. So this is very core if you're looking at the market to judge, where you want to place a buy or what type of action you want to take depending on where Bitcoin moves. So for me, it's a relatively neutral trade, but it looks a little bit more bullish than it does bearish. So the next question is, what about the exchanges? What about the legitimate markets? I'm seeing price action, but what's happening on chain and within exchanges? We can see, and we talked about this research a while back, is that we had 60K move off exchanges. We had 70K BTC move off exchanges. And now we just had 30K Bitcoin get moved onto exchanges. Now, when Bitcoin gets pulled off exchanges, it generally means people are storing that for long term. If you're storing it for long term, you're not likely to sell in the short term. Now, if you're moving it on exchanges, you're likely to sell, because why would you put the liquidity into the market if you had no desire to actually move it around? So when exchanges get more Bitcoin, we are thinking more bearish. Now we need it, since this is only about 30K compared to, more or less 80K being pulled off, we're still in a supply dearth. Whereas, if we had more supply, we would be in a supply excess. So this is still positive, and it just means that this is the main responsibilities of the selling is people moving Bitcoin on exchanges. And we want to see that reverse to be able to say price action or bullish price action would be justified. So there's a few other indicators like liquidity that I think are worth mentioning. There should be a chart around here somewhere. I shared it in the it's in the community in the members research channel, so I won't dig it out now. But basically, we saw 3 billion in longs get liquidated last night, and that all of those longs getting liquidated, or at least the majority of them, are precisely because of this swing failure pattern right here. So if you were one of the 3 billion, I apologize, but please do keep up with our community as much as possible for research like this so that we can warn you of opportunities to maybe not get pushed in one direction or the other. So sorry, that was a little bit long-winded, 10 minutes, but these are the main things that I look for: candle patterns, and then on-chain and exchange metrics. Those are my favorites, and they generally give you a very good view of Bitcoin and obviously the people pushing Bitcoin around.
Nick, and maybe
Absolutely,
where to place
Nick.
a buy.
Where would I place a buy?
Like,
No, where to
I
put
mean,
money, so,
where to
yeah.
where to place one. So
Yeah, where to
I
place
got
one.
an order filled at 48K last night.
So if you got an order filled at 48K, that's pretty positive. What I would look for an actual, like, where I would want to place a trade right now, if you are feeling bullish, which I would say, it's tough to say, but I'm feeling more bullish than bearish. Buying anywhere between 49 and 50.5K is not a bad zone, because all you need to do is set a 5 to 10% stop loss to cut off your potential losses, and then that signal to cut your losses is if it breaks this area right here. So what I would do, I think Weston, you had a very smart trade, but considering that it's trending so close to resistance right now, I might wait to see if we get a clean break of resistance, meaning that we have an hour to 4 hour candle actually break 50.5K before actually entering. That's probably the safest bet to
That's
alleviate
safe,
the
right?
risk.
This, this just goes to show the value of seeking out additional alternative data sets versus just looking at, exchange volumes and
Yes,
price
right.
action,
Yes.
right? And paying attention to the news, right? There's so many different ways that you can trade and be successful. There's a million roads to the same endpoint. And
Yes.
that's why the community that we have is so valuable, because we have so much analysis going on in the community. For our members, we have so many different trading ideas coming from Weston, from Nichols, from Nick, from other sources. It's just
That's synergy.
having all of this at your exactly, having all of this at your disposal is valuable to putting together a trading strategy and finding your path to success, for sure.
Couldn't agree more.
100%.
Oh
And
my
sentiment
goodness.
is a big piece of it as well. Is, I love to look at the data, and I sourced a lot of this, but sentiment is really kind of the biggest trigger to me to look. I stare at Bitcoin and Ethereum all day because they move the markets and they are very important. But sentiment is generally the first thing that I look at to find a coin of interest. So I don't want everyone to think that I don't use TTC or that these other data sets matter more. TTC is generally my first step. And then I begin to pick out the coins that I want to dig into more.
I have a thought about the sentiment. I don't just get the sentiment off of the dashboard, because that's thousands of tweets and the AI is calculating that, and that's powerful, and I definitely use that. But what's powerful about being in the TTC community as well is you get sentiment from the people and how they feel about it. And I was feeling a few weeks of mania, and I knew something big had to happen. I might not have figured that out with just TTC, but watching the conversations at TTC gave me an additional pulse, which made me make better trading decisions, just because I was gauging the sentiment of our community.
Of thousands of
because
members.
that is a really powerful metric. And a lot of the people talking on there know way more than the Yahoos giving us sentiment off of Twitter.
Yes. Yes.
Answer
Beautiful.
real quickly, just who just asked that, but it was about Luna. I'm not going to say anything about Luna personally. I'm not going to say, it's a buy or sell, obviously, no FA. But one of the things is that crypto.com so far hasn't proven to be a big Coinbase effect listing venue. And as far as Luna is concerned, I think if you look at the general consensus along a lot of people, it's a relatively popular, solid project. So I think Luna has actually probably traveled a lot of its price action on its own accord. But in regards to crypto.com, we have yet to see any impactful Coinbase effect.
Crypto.com is like the most you're going to see is like 5%. It's like not very notable. I mean, we can remove it if people don't want to see it. So
no. I mean, I let them decide 5%, but it's just not going to be like a Coinbase.
It's not going to be like Weston with his kung fu paper hands on quick trading.
Luna is very interesting because the stable coin universe is only growing, and we're going to need liquidity as the market grows too. You can't make a market without liquidity and automatic market making. So.
Yep.
All right. Cool. I think that's it. Yes, everyone?
Yeah, wonderful.
Thanks for
Great chat.
joining. Anybody who had to
Thank you.
leave or came in late, this will be posted by 5 o'clock today. It's in my list of to-dos for sure. I'll get fired, I'm sure.
Look in the mirror and be like,
right. Thank you everyone for joining us today. It's always great. And we'll see you again next week.
Cheers.
Great safe.